I like to use the kick wheel because I feel like it's sort of less machine between. It's less machine between me and the wheel. Also, the kick wheel automatically slows down as you're working, and as you are pulling up your sides, you want less speed at the top than at the bottom. If you learn on the kick wheel, most people sort of set it at a speed and just work at that speed the whole time. And you don't learn as sensitive a way of throwing. So that's why I use this one. Can everybody see? You can come closer if you need to. So the first one, as I said, I'm going to just throw, and I'm going to talk about the steps in my body position, but it's going to be one piece. And the second one, I'll go much slower and talk about the steps. So you want to start with a symmetrical piece of clay. You want to get your kick wheel going, and you want to hold on when you do this. You want the wheel to be going as fast as you can get it to go. So get that flywheel going. My foot, I'm holding on, my foot is swinging, and I'm getting like a push, 2 pushes for every swing of my legs, and my heel and my toe are pushing. And actually, you know what? I could throw this down here with the wheel moving, but if I do, I will throw it way off to the side. For some reason, if the wheel is moving when I put the clay on, I can't get it on evenly. So, hold on a minute. I can only stop the wheel now with 1 foot, so it takes longer. So you want to be sure your piece is rounded on the bottom. So with your pieces that you threw ram's head, or you wedged ram's head, just make sure it's really rounded, make sure it's symmetrical. So yours are basically balls when you use the ram's head. Mine is cone shaped because I use the spiral, but it's symmetrical, that's the trick. Don't just cut off with all these crazy angles. Get right over your wheel head. The wheel head has circles, so you can kind of aim for the middle, hold on to it, and really throw it on there. So you want to make a seal. Now mine's off, which is kind of amazing. I can still throw it so far off when I've been doing this for so long. So I'm going to move it back towards the center without breaking that seal. So I'm just going to give it a little turn so it's in the middle instead of off on the side. Because the whole thing of starting, when you're starting, you're going to be centering. So you want to get everything moving around one point in the middle. So my first move, once I get it going again, is to be sure it's really on the wheel head. So before I even touch the clay, I want to think about body position and how am I going to hold my arms really, really steady. I get my hands wet and I put my elbow down on my leg and I'm going to be pushing with my leg the whole time to make sure this hand stays steady. So my elbow goes down, my right elbow is tucked up into my rib cage. I'm going to push down and in with my right hand and down with my left. So it's not going to really change shape very much. So my left hand's pushing this way, my right hand's pushing this way, and now I know it's on the wheel head and it's not going to go flying off and land in somebody's lap. When that does happen, people are usually pretty nice about it, but you know, it kind of depends on what kind of day that person had. So take my sponge. See how the clay at the bottom is off center? I want to center that clay with my sponge, 2 hands, elbows into my body, lean over the clay. So that clay at the bottom is now centered and I don't have to put my hand on the wheel head. Anytime you're working, you don't want your hand on the wheel head. First of all, it'll slow the wheel down. If you're kicking it, you don't want that to happen. But also, our clay has grog in it, so it acts like sandpaper. And it really will abrade your hand. So I don't need to put my hand down there, that's all centered. You always want to kick and then work on your clay. You don't want to be kicking and touching your clay at the same time because you can't keep yourself centered and steady. So I'm going to show you the coning method of centering. That's one that works well for a lot of people. So I'm going to bring it up into a cone and then take it down. So when I do this, I'm really going to be using diagonals. I'm supposed to be doing this at a regular pace. I just realized I started doing it a lot more. So I'm using that diagonal to bring it up, making sure it's going fast. My other diagonal to take it down. My right hand's looking towards me. My left elbow is really pressed, and I'm pushing with my thigh at this point. So now my clay is centered. I'm going to open it up. The very top of it is a little off, so I'm just going to go back in there with my hand like a big rib. Just straighten that out a little bit. Keeping my wheel head clean. Using water to keep my hand slippery, but not so much it's making a big mess or making my surfaces degrade. Going down at an angle using the middle finger of my right hand, leaving about ½ an inch at the bottom, maybe ¼ of an inch between my finger and the wheel head. Opening up the bottom by bending my knuckles and working straight back towards me. My left thumb is compressing the lip so it doesn't pop up and it stays nice and tight. I did forget something. Somebody hand me that little sponge. It's right there. Thanks. So now I'm going to just make sure there's no water accumulating on the bottom and get this nice and tight and smooth. Put a nice flat bottom for my cylinder. You want to start with cylinders because the clay naturally wants to go out and down. So if you learn to make it go up and in, you're really learning how to control the clay. Also, many forms, functional forms, come from a cylinder. I'm going to just compress my lip again, and I'm ready to start my pulls. Taking the sponge, I'm just going to make a little notch under here, so I can start every pull right at the bottom. And again, so I don't have to put my hand on the wheel head. So tucking in, I'm going to push with my outside hand and catch with my inside hand. And my two hands are acting as one tool. See how my finger was over the side? Press the lip. If you keep control of the lip, you'll find it's easier to keep control of the whole form. Push. And then come up. So it's really nice when I can use my hands as one tool. Keeps me steady. Again, look at my elbows, how tight they are to my body. I'm trying to keep the same distance between my fingers from the bottom all the way to the top. And to do that, I need to push harder at the bottom and less hard at the top. So this is, an even-walled, straight cylinder. I could probably do another pull to thin it, but if you wanted to shape it a little at this point, you can. Clay really likes to go out. So see how it'll stretch right into a curve? It doesn't much like to go in. So see, as I'm pushing in, it's pushing against me. So if you want something with a narrow opening, you have to calculate that from the beginning. So before I finish, I would look at my throwing lines. I would look at the shape. It's a little flat in here, so I might just refine that curve a little bit. On this one, I'll say I'll leave the throwing marks. The next one I show you, I'll take them off so you can see those choices. I want to get it off, we're going to slide it off on a layer of water like hydroplaning. So before I do that, I need to get rid of this clay that's at the bottom that's going out. I want it to go in. I'm going to use the point of this tool. I'm going to go down the side and then tuck that tool right underneath. You're on the wheel head, so I'm tucking it underneath. A lot of people don't like this tool because when you first start using it, you might push too hard and it makes that horrible metal against metal noise. But if you learn to just use it lightly, I really like it because the clay accumulates behind it and you get a nice clean undercut down there. So I'm going to put water on one side and stop the wheel. Well, before I stop it, I'm going to check my piece. Make sure there's no water accumulating on the bottom. The whole time you're throwing, you want to be sure there's no water accumulating down there. So water on my bat, water on the wheel head, using a clean wire. Put your thumbs on it, and pull the water underneath. And you probably will see it move. Did you see it move a tiny bit there?